D-Lo Full for Boxing and More. Want to give a post-fight breakdown on that AJ Povetkin fight. First off, I want to say shout out to the LDBC. Welcome back to my subscribers. Welcome back to repeat viewers. Welcome to new viewers to my channel. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. If you're feeling the content, please like, share, comment, and subscribe as well. My thoughts on that fight. First round, AJ was very, very tentative. He was very reluctant to let his hands go. And Sasha was very aggressive and really getting his shots off, and he actually was doing the better work. Like he hurt AJ, I think it was in the first round. I think the uppercut that started the trouble with his nose bleeding. Probably broke his nose, not sure. But aside from that, Sasha was landing some good overhand rights. Really just done some really good work in there. AJ eventually got on track, probably around round 4, maybe. Started working his jab a little bit. Letting his hands go a little more. But, even with that said, he was still allowing Sasha to land a more crisp shots. AJ's defense did not look good in that fight. There were points in the fight where he was actually reaching. No, excuse me, not AJ, but Povetkin was actually reaching instead of setting his shots up or getting inside to throw the shots. So AJ was able to slip a few of those big shots, but he was barely getting out of the way. But, boxing is a game of inches. If you miss a shot by an inch, you missed a shot. I mean, that's the way it is. He did not get hit with anything huge toward the latter part of the fight, before the stoppage. And maybe I'm speaking out of order. I will go ahead and say, for those who don't know, and I'm sure everybody does know, AJ did win the fight via stoppage. I think it was the 6th round, maybe. I'm not sure off the top of my head. Just watching a little football and stuff too right now. But like I said, prior to the stoppage, Povetkin seemed to have gassed a lot. Later in the fight, he seemed to have gotten to a point where he was just, languishing, trying to get through energy drainage at certain points of the rounds. I mean, he got to a point where it looked like he actually needed to just take a knee just to get his own breath, it seemed like. But that said, AJ showed up. He did what he was supposed to do when faced with adversity. He overcame it, which is what you're supposed to do in those situations. He overcame that adversity and persevered, which is what fighters are supposed to do. It's what champions are supposed to do. It's what separates guys who don't make it to certain levels in the sport of boxing from guys who do make it to certain levels in the sport of boxing. As for Povetkin, I take my hat off to him. He didn't come out there to lay down. He came to win the fight, and I think he did what he could. He went for broke. He came up short. AJ has another knockout under his belt. And after the fight, of course, AJ talked about April 13th at the fight at Wembley. Talked about wanting Wilder for that fight. And, of course, Eddie Hearn, has Dillian White as probably the front runner. I don't remember what exactly he said post-fight. He talked about White, and then I remember White was upset about not getting in the ring, not being allowed to come down in the ring. Felt like it was a waste of his time to be there and get, called out get mentioned in the ring, but not being able to come down there and actually respond. I think that kind of pissed him off, so to speak. That said, as a fan of boxing, fan of the heavyweight division, I want to see that fight for undisputed. But at the end of the day, we don't know until Wilder and Fury actually fight who the winner of that fight is going to be. We can speculate, we can hope, we could we can make an educated guess. We can say based on this, based on that, this is who should win the fight. But at the end of the day, the fights have to be fought. It's just like AJ's fight with Povetkin. Povetkin was, seemingly putting a few punches together away from getting AJ, on the canvas. Does that mean he would have stopped him? Not necessarily, but who knows how it could have played out. But the fight played out as it did, and AJ got his hands raised at the end of the fight. So with Fury and Wilder, they have to actually fight. We don't know how that fight's going to go. My guess is that Wilder's going to win the fight via KO. But I've always felt like Wilder beats Fury via KO. So, but they have to actually fight. So we have to see what happens. My hopes are Wilder gets the win, and he does get to fight AJ in April. But if he doesn't win and Tyson Fury wins, I'd like to see Fury get to fight with AJ in April. But if they're going in that Dillian White direction, then good for White. He's been saying he wants a title shot. He'll get his first shot at a title, and we'll see if he rises to the occasion and gets a win. If he's the one who's in that position to get that title shot. I mean, as for the fight itself, that took place today with AJ and Povetkin. For me, I think that fight tells me that AJ still has a ways to go before he's able to withstand what Deontay Wilder brings to the table. And that said, I think, personally, I think that no matter who he fights next, no matter who he fights in the interim before eventually fighting Wilder, none of those guys will ever prepare him for what Wilder brings to the table. He just has to have the courage and wherewithal to get in there and put together the best game plan he possibly can and do what he does best, and hopefully be able to put up a good fight and and for his sake get a win. Same thing for Wilder. Wilder has to, take care of business with Fury. If he does so, then he'll have to they'll have to devise a game plan that works best for him, puts him in the best position to actually win that fight. But I just don't think AJ taking a bunch of interim fights does anything for preparing him for Wilder, because none of those guys are like Wilder. And honestly, the stiffer the competition gets, in my opinion, the less likely it is AJ makes it to the Wilder fight undefeated. And it's too many of these fights that they're having are becoming nail biters as far as having these bad moments to where it's starting to look like that fight something's going to happen and that fight's not going to take place. And with AJ, you had the close fight with Joseph Parker, even though the decision was wide. It was a close fight that could have, in my opinion, Joseph Parker could have very well been the winner in that fight. And then, with Wilder, he had the fight with Ortiz where he got hurt pretty bad. I think it was in the 7th round, and could have got dropped. Some say he could have been stopped. So that to me is proof and example of why you can't prolong these big fights too long. Letting it marinate, as they like to say, can go wrong a lot of times. You just have to do what makes the most sense, and what makes the most sense is to make the fights when you can make them, because eventually what happens is something comes along and upsets the apple cart. That's the sport of boxing. I mean, that happens more so than we like as fans. I'm sure it happens more so than the promoters like, more so than the fighters like. It's just one of those things that could really and truly, cause cause a fight that could be a very, very good fight for the sport to not take place. And sticking with the heavyweight division, I'll go ahead and speak on, the Riddick Bowe and Lennox Lewis saga. There was Lennox put himself in position to be Riddick's mandatory. They made 2 offers to Lennox. His team didn't like any of the offers. what happened after that was they came back and said, you know, okay, we'll take what you offer because the offer didn't get any better. And by then, Lennox and his team, Bo and his team said, no, we changed our mind. Then when they basically was going to force the fight. And I say they, I mean the sanctioning body, WBC. Bo and his team decided they throw the belt in the trash. Lennox get out the trash can if you want it. Then fast forward a couple years, when Bo didn't have a strap and Lennox still wanted that fight, Bo wanted to fight. They had the fight signed. Fight was supposed to be next. Lennox just had to fight, you know, had to get past Oliver McCall. Oliver McCall knocked out Lennox Lewis, and the rest is history. Bo that fight went down the toilet, and Bo and Lennox Lewis never fought. What happened next for Bo was he got into his series with Andrew Galata, and 2 fights back to back that were just hell on him, which Andrew Galata got DQ'd in both fights for hitting Bo below the belt. I mean, 2 fan-friendly fights, but, you know, after that, Bo decided he had enough of boxing and walked away from the sport. And so that fight never got made, and I don't want to see history repeat itself in that regard. I want to see the perceived 2 best heavyweights in the world, you know, in the ring with each other. 2 guys that have the hardware. I want to see them in the ring with each other, and I want to see a fight for undisputed heavyweight supremacy, and I want to see it sooner than later. And I know I'm not alone. A lot of boxing fans want to see that. But my point in bringing up the Bo Lewis fight is just to give example that, you know, a lot of times the fights that the fans want to see don't happen behind politics and behind, you know, people jockeying for position and doing this and doing that, and just, you know, trying to do things to put themselves in the best possible position instead of just making the fights happen. You know, the fight with Wilder and AJ, pretty much, if I had to just sum it up to anything, is because one team wants to get the not just the lion's share of the money, almost all of the money, and leave, you know, just a small portion of the money for the fan, for the other fighter. And, you know, when it came to Lewis and Bo, that was kind of what the situation was. You know, Bo and his team, you know, did not want to. They initially, when they made those offers, man, they were trying to lowball Lennox. You know, they didn't want to give Lennox a fair share of the proceeds. And you know, they were miles away on the money, and you know what I'm saying, that caused the fight not to get made. And even, you know, and just to give an idea of how one-sided the offers had to be, the fight that was actually signed and, you know, agreed to between Lennox Lewis and Riddick Bowe, if I remember correctly, the purses were something like $18 million for Bowe and $13 million for Lewis, and Bowe was actually the guy that didn't have a title at the time. So, and if that's the kind of money that they were going to get for Lennox Lewis to defend his title against Bowe, just imagine what the purses were, what the offer was when Bowe and his team was offering the purse to Lennox. I mean, if I had to guess, I'd say, you know, it probably was somewhere along the neighborhood of, you know, 80 to 20%, you know, something like that. You know, where you know, 80% of the proceeds of the fight will go, you know, 80% of the revenue was going to go to Team Bowe, and 20% or maybe even less was going to go to Lennox. And like I said, I'm not looking at, you know, actual data in front of me. I'm just speculating based on, you know, saying different things I've heard over the years, different things I've read. And like I said, and I'm pretty sure the information is out there, but I mean, for the purpose of this video, it's not really pertinent for me to go ahead and quote actual numbers and actually dive into, you know, getting that specific information and referencing sources, et cetera, et cetera. But my whole point is saying all that, and I know I've rambled on a little bit about it, is if that fight with Wilder is to be made, AJ and his team are going to have to be fair in what they're offering. When Wilder offered AJ, when they made an offer, they offered them $50 million plus 50-50 split of the back end money. That is a fair offer. The $12.5 million flat that was offered to Wilder was not a fair offer. The $15 million flat offered to Wilder was not a fair offer. And what has to happen is a fair offer has to be made for the fight to get made. But there again, Wilder has to take care of his business in December and beat Tyson Fury. If that happens, I feel like if a fair offer is put on the table, Wilder and his team will accept, and they'll go ahead and make the deal. And that fight will get signed, and we'll get the fight we all want in April. That said, I'm just going to end it on saying, good win for AJ. Congratulations to him and his team. Congratulations to his fans. Much respect to Povetkin. He came out to fight. He didn't come out to lay down. Shout out to LDBC once again. Shout out to new media. I'm out of here. Peace.